I want to go back to that rowdy reception, the net zero reception to the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese. He was greeted at last Friday's Bush Summit. This is the summit run by News Limited. We had protesters outside that Daily Telegraph event. It was in Tamworth, I believe, where the PM was speaking to voice their opposition to renewable energy projects. Now, they're all very upset about this. Climate crusader Anthony Albanese turned up and I don't think he got the sort of welcome he thought he was going to have. You had 100 protesting farmers, lots of placards, lots of chanting at the protest. Leading them was the local MP Barnaby Joyce from Tamworth, who said the issue had united thousands of landholders from 240 groups stretching from Queensland to Tasmania. Here's a little of what Barnaby had to say.
We have governments that just now are compulsorily acquiring our land, putting in 1 kilometre corridors. We have our corridors you can't farm under, you can't fence under. They've got access to. It's foreign companies that then end up owning it. Wind factories, solar factories. And for the people of the western suburbs of Sydney and the western suburbs of Brisbane, a power bill they can't possibly afford.
20 years' time, what are they going to do? We're going to have forests of dead windmills.
These things are just destroying our rural amenity. They're as if rural people are second-class citizens. You wouldn't see any around the city, would you?
There's lots of people in these small communities that they think they can target, don't want them. We build high-efficiency, low-emissions coal-fired power stations. We have very good quality coal in Australia for a long time. We look at nuclear power. We stop covering our prime agriculture or any land in these things that don't work.
I made the point about those solar panels that I saw on the trip up from Melbourne today. Now, the PM obviously does not want to alienate the regional vote. He said he did listen to the farmers and had a meeting with them, and says he'll try his best to improve consultation and compromise. This is what the PM had to say.
What they wanted was to make sure there was proper consultation, that every factor was taken into account, including ensuring that prime agricultural land was not adversely affected.
Rolling out 28,000 kilometres of poles and wires, as the government is proposing, is not only incredibly expensive, it's not the most efficient way of spending taxpayers' money.
This is going to be an argument that's going to go for some time. Remember, this is the Prime Minister who promised to transform Australia into a renewable energy powerhouse on election night. Remember this?
Together, we can take advantage of the opportunity for Australia to be a renewable energy superpower.
Well, that was the PM on election night. As I said, I saw a solar energy project today at Glenrowan in Victoria, where 365 hectares are going to be covered with solar panels. I just couldn't believe it. I saw it from the side of the road. Joining us to have a discussion about this is Queensland LNP Senator James McGrath and Ballarat farmer Tom Drive. He's with the group Piss Off AusNet, which is causing huge problems. He has personally suffered a $1.5 million loss on the equity off the back of the renewable transmission lines that are going to go through his property. Gentlemen, hello. Tom, can I start with you? Can you just walk us briefly through your story and how this is impacted on your particular property?
Yeah, well, I guess our major issue with their devaluation showed up in January this year. We were purchasing a new property, and while we were having our final discussions with the bank enlightened us that they've had to devalue us by $1.5 million, our equity. This is only a 290-acre block we were borrowing against. They devalued it by $1.5 million, which meant it was a bit of an issue. We did get across the line with our settlement on the new block, but now obviously we're running short on equity to continue on with our business.
See, I think most Australians are really surprised about this, but I'm not, because I described that Glenrowan solar farm. I don't know if you've seen it, but that is just extraordinary what's there. But I was in WA earlier this year in January, and they built a massive solar farm about 3 hours north of Perth, above Geraldton. And I couldn't believe it, driving along the main road there, seeing these brand new transmission lines, Tom, that had just cut a great swathe right through the middle of these wheat farms. And I looked at it myself and I thought, well, this is going to happen everywhere in Australia, isn't it?
Well, yeah, clearly they're talking about anywhere between 10 and 28,000 kilometres these power lines are going to be going in, so clearly we're going to be stuck with a fair few of them. But in our area in particular, they come through some of the most prime agricultural land in Australia, potato growing land. They haven't really taken any of that into consideration. They basically put a line on the map and they've steamrolled it through. The consultation has basically been non-existent. And you listen to them now talking about how they're going to get the consultation better. You'd say it has to be wise for them to go right back to the start and start consultating properly and get this right rather than make a mess of it. We've seen other countries back away from renewable energy. It's clearly not working. It is going to leave a massive footprint on agricultural land, whether we follow through with it or whether we pull up halfway. Once we've got infrastructure on our place, it's not going to go away, and the potato farmers and all the rest are the same. And there's a lot of other agricultural industries under all these lines that are going to be the same.
James McGrath, is there a revolt brewing in the bush that the PM doesn't want?
Oh, there is a revolt definitely brewing in the bush. I spend my life on the road travelling through regional Queensland, and country Queensland, rural, regional, remote Queensland are sick of paying the price for the city. So if these things are good enough for the country, they should be good enough for the city. And we can't have a situation where there's no consultation and prime ag land is being locked up because the Prime Minister, has a brain spurt and thinks this is a good idea. This is all about the Labor Party wanting to drive Australia into the ground, whether it is promising public holidays, costing small business, or locking up prime ag land for a renewables policy that doesn't include having a discussion about nuclear energy. Just shows how out of touch Labor is when it comes to having an energy policy that is affordable and reliable and actually will cut emissions.
Tom, when you speak to other farmers in the region and you obviously get together, is there an argument that, what happens if you lock your gate and you tell these people they can't come on your property? What happens then?
Well, basically, our area, or not only our area, I think everyone's had a gutful of this. We've seen the incompetence of the governments that are running or certainly in Victoria, we've seen a lot of incompetence recently. And we don't intend to put up with it. We're just going to lock the gates and keep them out. They won't get in. It's as simple as that.
James, the Prime Minister tried to suggest that he sat behind closed doors with the farmers and brokered some sort of deal. I'll ask Tom about that as well in a moment. But James, do you get a sense that is possible? I mean, can he broker some sort of deal here?
I'm calling BS on that. The Prime Minister always talks about this thing called a voice. Well, I don't think he is listening to the voices of farmers and listening to the voices of rural, regional and remote Australia. So, no, I'm calling BS on that. They've got to go back, as Tom said, they've got to go back to the drawing board here. This consultation has just been a sham. This is, just all about, Labor Party, madness, rather than having a sensible policy and a sensible approach to having reliable energy in Australia. We've got a third of the world's uranium, we've got tons of coal, and we do have sun and wind, but let's use all of it, but let's not destroy and lock up prime ag land.
Tom, what would you be paid to allow transmission lines to go through the middle of your property?
Well, over 25 years, they'd pay us $200,000 total over 25 years. They've already taken $1.5 million worth of our operating money off us. Clearly, the $200,000 wouldn't even cover the interest on that money over the years. And it's as simple as that. Like, we can go to court and try and get more compensation, but who knows where that leads. It's a pretty tough position to be put in.
What are you going to do next?
We will fight them the whole way. We don't intend to let them. We're not going to roll over, and nor will anyone else. I wouldn't think. Like, I'm talking about my own situation. There wouldn't be a person, if there's 28,000 kilometres of these lines going in, generally speaking, everyone's going to have the same issue we've got. So we're all going to have to go through the fight. And to be honest, as a community, everyone's gone together. We know what lays ahead, and we'll be having a good crack at them, yeah.
Tom and James, thank you very much for making time on a Sunday night. I really appreciate it.